Let's think back to the summer of 2022. The Warriors are coming off of their championship, something that most people didn't see happening, but they are faced with a bit of a dilemma. They knew that they essentially would need to choose between one of two very, very key role players who also happen to be fan favorites. I'm talking about Kevon Looney and Gary Payton II. Well, when the Portland Trailblazers went ahead and offered GP2 a 3-year, $28 million contract that the Warriors just were not going to match, really couldn't match, they knew that they were going to say thank you to GP2 for his services, but they were going to let him walk out the door. But it also opened the door for Kevon Looney to return on a 3-year, $22.5 million deal to remain with the Warriors. Now, fast forward to this offseason, and Kevon Looney is the one who is walking out the door on a 2-year, $16 million contract with the New Orleans Pelicans that the Warriors, again, were not going to match when it came to Kevon Looney and his decade of becoming a Warriors cult hero, almost in a way. So instead, now it's GP2 coming through the doors of Chase Center again. The wait is over. Gary Payton II is remaining with the Warriors. After all of that, the question now is, at this point in his career, what does Gary Payton II bring to the Warriors with his return? First and foremost, when it comes to GP2, I want to make it very clear. Like, this is somebody that everybody within the Warriors, they're all a GP2 fan. They love Gary Payton II. This is the son of not just, of course, the glove, Gary Payton, but Oakland's own Gary Payton. And he has made the Bay Area his home. He's out in the community. He's doing things for people like himself who are dyslexic. He's done so much for the fans, for the community. Go to a game at Chase Center, even on the road too. But go to a game at Chase Center and see the way that Gary Payton II interacts with the kids. It is really, really cool. And I gotta say, if you're in a room around Gary Payton II and you come across and leave there and say, I don't really like that guy, I'm sorry, you're the problem. Gary's not. Like, it's really, really easy to like Gary Payton II, and he is beloved when it comes to Steve Kerr, when it comes to the locker room, and again, throughout Dub Nation. But of course, we're talking about on the court now, because this is somebody who has an injury history, whether it's injuries and he pops up on the injury report with illness, to we know offensively he's not going to be a threat shooting the ball. He's not going to be a scorer from three-point distance. What he is maybe one of the most unique players in the entire NBA, and who works with the Warriors better than he would work with any other team, with any other coach, with any other system. Gary always wanted to stay with the Warriors for multiple reasons, but one of them is understanding how Steve Kerr knows how to use him. They didn't put him in a box and say, you're 6'2", you're a point guard, you're this. No. Instead, Gary Payton II, he's a power forward offensively in the dunker spot, and a point guard defensively, guarding multiple positions, multiple different skill sets at multiple different sizes. So that's just, again, the uniqueness of Gary Payton II. So when it comes to his role on this team, on this roster going into the 2025-26 season, the first thing that stands out, obviously, is GP2 and his on-ball defense. I will say, when it comes to Gary, obviously, I've made this very clear. Defense is his calling card. And his defense wasn't quite as effective as it has been in seasons past. His defensive rating actually was the same exact number as Buddy Hield. And again, Buddy, he gives the effort. He works really hard on that side of the ball. He's improved defensively, but he certainly isn't known for his defense, and that's not his calling card. The three-point line is. So I think if you look at that number, you get a little concerned going, okay, clearly GP2 took a little bit of a step back there defensively. When it comes to his defensive win shares, he was near the bottom of the Warriors last season. But then there's other stats too. He ranked 5th in the entire NBA when it came to deflections per 75 possessions. It's a mouthful. I got it. I got there. Whew. Also, he was considered the fourth best wing stopper per D LeBron. So there are going to be some stats that are in Gary's favor and some stats that are against him. Just like when it comes to teams and matchups, there are going to be some nights where Gary Payton II is going to be a game changer, as he's shown in his past with the Warriors. And there's going to be some nights where he's probably going to stay on the bench. He might play 6 minutes one night. He might play 20 minutes on another night, and he might also not get a single second of run on certain games as well. So, aside from a fully healthy DeAnthony Melton, when it's all said and done, I still think that there's not another player on the Warriors that Steve Kerr trusts to be someone to go pick up full court, to go be that pest defensively. And I'm talking about the best of the best in a loaded Western Conference. Let's think about some of these guards. I'm going to throw out names like Ja Morant, names like reigning MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, names like maybe the best young up-and-coming player who has already turned himself into, I'm going to say it, a superstar in Anthony Edwards. And also even other body types in those guard positions, like a James Harden, like a Luka Doncic with the Lakers now. That's where you want GP2 to be at. And that's who I think Steve Kerr trusts, again, more than anybody else. It might be times end of a quarter, end of a half, things like that. Though those momentum shifting times, Gary Payton II can still go out there. And I think when it comes to Steve Kerr, he understands how to kind of read where Gary's helping, where he could possibly be hurting, and when he's the hot hand offensively and defensively. He has nights where he is feeling it shot-wise. He has nights where he's going to put 3 dunks on your head. He has nights where he's going to have 3 deflections and 3 steals. So he's such a matchup-based player at this point in his career. He's someone who I think was very well worth bringing back. I can tell you that Gary Payton II, he badly wanted to remain with the Warriors this season. Going into free agency, it looked like he was going to join Kevon Looney in not returning to the Warriors. But as we've seen with this offseason, patience paid off. Wait, see what happened with this Jonathan Kuminga situation. And for Gary Payton II, it meant returning to the Warriors. And aside from everything he does defensively, aside from the way that Steve Kerr trusts that ability, there's a player that I think was maybe the most important in all of this. And that player, of course, is the entire franchise. I'm talking about Steph Curry. Steph Curry has always vouched for Gary Payton II, for what he brings to the Warriors. And they work off of each other so well. They have such different skill sets. But I think part of that really is how Gary is guarding and defending Steph so often in practice. He understands offensively how to free him up with all the movement he has, whether it's a strong screen or whether it's just having his head up, his eyes open, and knowing where Steph is going to be. That's so important on this Warriors team. It is top of the list of priorities is understanding how to play with Steph Curry. And behind Draymond Green, behind maybe 1 or 2 others, maybe not actually, maybe behind only Draymond Green, Gary Payton II understands how to play with Steph Curry as good as anybody else. So when it comes to Gary Payton II, do I think that maybe his role will be even less than last season? There's a chance, certainly so. His 15 minutes per game last season were his lowest ever with the Warriors. And maybe that drops this season as well. Part of that is making sure that he is healthy for the right times, for the playoffs, for the stretch run, just like so many of these other guys on the Warriors when it comes to age, when it comes to health. But even if he might see more DNPs than ever, even if that number of minutes per game continues to go down for Gary Payton II, at the end of the day, Gary Payton II still has value with the Warriors, and I think it's a win for both sides to bring GP2 back at Chase Center. And as someone who is a big fan of entire Dub Nation,